Yeah, we are here, man. We are here. We have Gary Smith with us, and it was really important that we talk to Gary. Gary was one of the attorneys that helped with the Rodney Jones case. Hey, Gary, what's up?
How you doing? I love that you said it's important that people talk to me.
Dude, it's like super important, right? And we also have Kim Cook here, the co-host of Cooper Still Standing.
Hi, everybody.
And so I really, the question I really wanted to ask is, what if the case was lost?
Yeah, that is the intriguing question. So, for the listeners at home who don't know, what we're talking about is the State versus Jones case that got decided at the Supreme Court last year, Arizona Supreme Court, that is. And the crux of the case was essentially asking and answering this question: whether or not extracted cannabis products were or were not included as part of the Arizona Medical Marijuana Act. In Rodney's case, he was a medical marijuana patient. He had his patient card, and he was arrested for possession of a trace amount of hashish. And by trace, I mean smaller than your pinky nail, which he acquired, by the way, at a dispensary. So Rodney got tried, convicted, took the matter up on appeal to the Arizona Court of Appeals. The Arizona Court of Appeals decided that it agreed with the prosecution that extracts were not part of AMA, hence Rodney's charge was valid. And so to the Supreme Court it went, and what the Supreme Court ultimately decided was, yes, extracts are part of AMA. Rodney's possession of it did not violate the law, and thus overturned Rodney's conviction. But to your question, what would have the world looked like had the Supreme Court upheld what the Court of Appeals ruled, that the trial court was correct, extracts are not permitted? This would have instantly wiped out half of the industry in Arizona. The reason I say that is, if you look at the numbers reported to DHS, roughly 50% of all sales of all products at the dispensary were non-flower products. Extracts, baked goods, infused goods, vape cartridges, the ever-popular gummy bear, all of it would have been gone. So what's the net effect of that? Assuming that then the governor or the police agencies didn't want to then go in and prosecute, and I'll double back on that in a moment. But what I think would have resulted is probably the industry would have folded, because to lose half of your income stream and not be able to replace it in this industry is a devastating hit. I don't know any business that could withstand 50% loss of its business in a normal business environment, and then you look at what dispensaries have to put up with. Right. Yikes.
Well, I kind of come from that world, the dispensary world I used to, and yeah, it would be really tough. Now, we talked about that in the beginning of this thing, is that we would be probably non-existent. Only thing a dispensary would be able to sell, if this case went the other way, is flour.
Correct.
Period.
Correct.
Flour.
Correct. And not enough of the market wants whole flour necessarily.
Right.
Now, I do suspect probably some people would still buy whole flour, take it home, do their home extraction, and keep on with whatever it was they were doing before the ruling. But I can't fathom that would have made up the missing market.
Well, what would have happened? It would have went the black market.
Of course.
Everyone still wants the stuff, right? Everyone still wants the cookies, still want the vape pens. They're just not going to be able to go into a reliable dispensary and get something that's been qualified as a good product.
Absolutely. And home extraction only goes so far.
What's really interesting about this case, I was kind of doing some little research on it, just looking up some of the facts, So, Rodney got pulled over in Prescott Valley and then they later found 1.5 grams of hashish on him, right? And, so just to let you know is that as a patient in Arizona, you're allowed 70 grams for every 2 weeks. He had less than 2% of possession on him.
Oh, yeah. He was well below his allotment. The question wasn't the volume of substance he had on him. The question was the nature of the substance he had on him.
Right. Yeah, but this stuff's been sold in stores for years.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And to make your point even more ornery for poor Rodney, he got arrested and charged, he got arrested, but he wasn't charged for another year. The prosecutor sat on charging him for a year past his arrest. And my suspicion is the reason for that is that at the same time that Rodney got arrested, there was a case down here in Maricopa County. And it was a case involving a young boy named Xander Welton.
Yes.
And Xander, I think, was roughly 5 years old at the time. And poor Xander had some sort of a congenital condition that caused him to have multiple grand mal seizures a day. And if you've ever seen somebody with bad epilepsy, not that there's good epilepsy, but if you've ever seen somebody with a grand mal seizure, it's frightening, and in a child, it's just gut-wrenching. And poor Xander's parents had kind of exhausted everything that Western medicine could throw at the problem, and nothing was working for Xander. And somebody recommended that they try cannabis oil, and they figured, what the heck, we've tried everything else, let's try cannabis oil. And damn it all, cannabis oil made a humongous difference for Xander. So the parents were very afraid of being criminally charged. They didn't know for sure whether extracts were going to be considered inside or outside of AMA, so they ended up very smartly pursuing a civil lawsuit, not a criminal case, because nobody's charged yet, and that was the whole point. They didn't want to risk being charged. So they filed a civil lawsuit seeking a declaratory judgment and an injunction. And basically what they said to the court was, hey, we've got this question about the legality or illegality of us giving our very sick child this medicine. We would like to be able to give him this medicine, but not at the price of our liberty or his.
Right.
So please tell us, Judge, read AMA, look at our situation, and let us know, can we give him this medicine without fear? And the court came back and said, yes, you can give your child that medicine without fear. This medicine is covered by AMA. So this is all happening while Rodney is sitting waiting, not knowing what his status is ever going to be. Small coincidence, or maybe not, you tell me, within 24 hours of the appeal time running on Xander Welton's victory, Rodney got charged. Now, you may wonder why. All I can think of is to take on a poor, sick little boy in an appeal would have been just unpalatable for anybody on the other side of the issue.
Right, absolutely. I kind of looked up some statistics of Yavapai County.
Yeah.
And it's quite fascinating. There's less than 1% of African Americans in Yavapai County.
You're bringing up the race issue.
Well, no. I mean, look, hate to say it. I mean, here's this guy driving on the street in the morning, and who's the police officer going to pull over, me or him?
Oh, yeah. Well, look, for the listeners at home, if you don't know this, here's the comparison. You had the Xander Welton case, which was a cute little white boy, and then you had Rodney Jones, who was a cute older black man. And I met Rodney. He's a very nice man. The optics suggest something, but do I know what was in the prosecutor's heart? I don't. Right. So I can't, point and say, oh, that was definitely the motivation. But I agree, the optics are there, and I don't blame anybody for pointing them out.
No, I don't believe that was it. I just believe it's kind of coincidental when you have a very low population that someone might be looked at.
Oh, of course.
Again, he wasn't charged until later.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so someone just wanted a case. So who is that someone? Who wanted a case here?
Yeah, well, we're talking the Yavapai County attorney, and they very much wanted a case, and they waited until they had one, and they thought they had the one.
Yeah. So here we are. So back in 2013.
By the way, I just wanted, sorry to cut you off, but I do want the listeners to know also, Rodney spent considerable amount of time in jail waiting for this thing to resolve. I mean, he lost about 2 years of his life that nobody can give him back. And his conviction was completely overturned, and he was completely exonerated.
Right. So what's the recourse for him now?
Unfortunately, there's a tremendous amount of prosecutorial immunity and discretion that serves almost as a total, if not total, bar to him being able to take action to get some kind of compensation.
Yeah. For ruining his life.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Right? That's what this is about. They ruined a man's life.
Yeah, well, consider the fact that there are criminal appeals that take place all the time, literally every day across the country since probably the nation's founding.
Right.
Unfortunately, those people don't always get compensation.
Right. Yeah, so this case wasn't really about Rodney.
Ultimately, my opinion, no. It was never, ever about Rodney.
Right, it was never about Rodney.
It was about an issue.
About an issue, and they wanted to prove a point. They've been going after the cannabis industry forever, for one reason or the other, and they thought they had something here.
Correct.
Yeah, so
it would have been a quick kill to the industry, because just as we spoke earlier, you knock out half of the industry, the other half will crumble
absolutely
under its own weight.
Yeah, so here we are. It's all started in 2013, getting pulled over. A year later, he gets charged. 2014, he's starting to rack up attorney bills, and everyone's starting to come after him, right?
Yep.
And then, of course, you have the other side that has, a big bucket of money that just keeps pouring it in there.
Yeah, well, sure. In Rodney's case, though, I don't know if it necessarily required a bucket of money, but these are normal prosecutorial functions, and his case wasn't factually arduous. It really was just down to a singular legal issue. So, to the extent that you would look at the totality of the case and say, where did the money get spent? It really got spent in the appeals process.
Right.